Okay, so I know I just did a video about this, but I was watching this video, and this is the prime example of what I was talking about, where holding someone accountable for their actions, or for their lack of action, or their lack of progress, is a foreign concept now, where we don't need to blame anybody anymore. You know, we don't need to blame them for their shortcomings. Okay, what we need to do is we need to gather around them. We need to pity them. Okay, we need to show them our overwhelming support, and that's just what it is. Instead of just looking at it how it actually is, and that is a lack of growth, a lack of progression in a profession where progression is demanded. Okay, when you're coming out of college, you are demanded to progress, and if you do not, they will let you go. You will be fired. Okay, professional sports is one of those rare positions where staying the same isn't really incentivized. Like maintaining numbers at a regular job. You know, let's say if you're a salesman and a lot of your commission comes from the amount of sales that you make. I mean, if you sell a certain amount of, if you have a certain amount of numbers every single month, year, whatever, and it stays consistent, you get incentivized. You get paid for those. You get paid for that. You get paid for stagnatism. I don't even know. Like, you get paid for being consistent. Okay? But there's a difference between being stagnant and there's a difference between being productive, I guess, or progressing at some level, progressing. And I know I'm struggling here because I'm trying to, off the top of my head, come up with the perfect sentence to surmise what I'm trying to say. But Ben Simmons, he hasn't shown any of it. This dude's been in the league for 5 years. There's no way he can't at least knock down a free throw jump shot. At the free throw line, anywhere near the free throw line, around that range, you mean to tell me you can't hit a jump shot? Most of his points come from inside the paint, man. It's just, that's not good enough, bro. When you're demanded at your position to provide a scoring punch as well. He thinks all he has to do is go out there, average a triple-double, and get around 15 assists, and that's good enough. Not in the playoffs, bro. You're not playing mediocre talent every other night in the playoffs. But Wilds is the one that I wanted to focus on here because he wants to pity Ben Simmons. He wants to feel sorry for this guy who has... and then he tried to compare him to Markelle Fultz. Now, let me say this. Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons coming out of college are two different situations. You're talking about Ben Simmons, who the Sixers pretty much paused everything to make sure that this dude was ready to come back. But Markelle, once he got to the league, this dude was thrown at the end of the bench, and they wouldn't let him play. They wouldn't let him try to get better. And it did take him leaving there and going somewhere else where the team would at least acknowledge that he needs to be groomed, and they did the best they could. And now look at Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz, in my opinion, is a better all-around point guard than Ben Simmons. If I'm being honest, man. Ben Simmons puts up flashier numbers, but who do I trust? Late in games, Markelle Fultz. I will trust him over Ben Simmons. I just would. And that's important. When you have a guy who is perceived as a superstar and you can't trust him down the stretch of big-time playoff games, that is a problem. Now let's hear what Wilds has to say, man. Let's hear what he has to say.
They're going to do him. They didn't. And now this is to me one of the most shocking 4 games, games 4, 5, 6, 7 of this series that I can ever remember. For Philly to have it right there for them and then blow it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So for me, my sort of anger at Ben Simmons for not shooting has subsided substantially, Broussard. Now I'm just kind of sad because I feel like we're watching a guy fail at the highest level and not reach his potential, and I think everyone should be empathetic to that.
Really empathetic. We should be empathetic to a guy who has been told probably countless times by his own team and countless times by the media and by fans that he needs to develop a shot. And this has been years that he's been told this. But because certain media members think that this dude is the cream of the crop and he doesn't need to get better, every time they talk about Ben Simmons, it's Ben Simmons had a triple-double. He had a 15-point triple-double. And the Sixers won handily against the Charlotte Hornets. Or I'm trying to think of another shitty team. The Houston Rockets. Like, beating bad teams and playing well while you're beating bad teams, like, that shit goes to kids' heads, man. It just does, bro. It just does. And then when reality sets in that he's not as good as he thinks he is, and he has to come face to face with that demon of, hey, listen, I skated by on my passing ability. I skated by on my mediocre defense against undersized point guards. I skated by on these things, and now when we get to the playoffs and it's not something I can skate by on anymore, now I'm up against it. And Wilds is saying that we need to feel sorry for this guy when he had all the opportunities in the world, every opportunity in the world to develop a shot. But let's keep going.
And we saw a little bit with Markelle Fultz, where people were angry at him being a high draft pick, and it's like, oh no, there's something else going on. And
how was anybody mad about him being a high? When Markelle Fultz was drafted, he was projected to be the first pick anyway. But Boston had the first pick. Boston had the number 1 pick, and it was projected that they were going to take him anyway. But they traded back to the 3rd pick. They gave that pick to the Sixers, and they drafted Jason Tatum, and the Sixers drafted Markelle Fultz. Now, people were mad after the fact when he didn't play as well as he needed to, I guess, during practice, because he damn sure didn't play during the games. And they wound up just moving him anyway. They were mad after the fact. And that's the thing about fans, man. Fans have hindsight, and they think they consider that intelligence. Just like media members. Media members and fans consider hindsight intelligence, and it's not. It is not intelligence. You have a good recall. Or a sufficient recall. I'm sorry, I stuttered a little bit. Like a sufficient recall. Like, that's it. It's not intelligence. You being able to look smarter after the fact does not mean that you're smart. It just means that you were able to recite the information that you already know. But Markelle Fultz, when he was drafted, was projected to be the first pick anyway, coming out of Washington. He was looked at as the best prospect. Now, you know what was a surprise number 1 pick? Anthony Bennett. Anthony Bennett was a surprise. Nobody saw that coming at all. I don't even think he was considered a top 5 pick. He might have been, but to take him number 1, that was a surprise. So Markelle Fultz was projected to go number 1 overall. Let's go, man. Let's go.
then all of sort of sports started rooting for Markelle Fultz. And for
bullshit. Nobody cared. To be honest, if there wasn't bashing the kid, nobody cared about him because he wasn't playing. Now everybody is rooting for Markelle Fultz because Markelle is finally starting to play better. Very few of us actually felt sorry for the kid because I'm like, how do you have this number 1 pick and you refuse to play him, but you keep saying that he can't play when you won't let him play at all? You won't let him try to work through whatever it is. He wasn't injured, nothing. They just didn't want him on the floor. They would not let him play. Brett Brown was an idiot as a coach. And I said this years ago. Go back and try to find those Sixers. I made a bunch of them. I said Brett Brown needs to go. The Sixers won't win with him. They will not win with Brett Brown. I said this. Just like I said, you can't win with Ben Simmons. He refuses to improve. You can't win with him. He is not a superstar. At best, he's an all-star talent. Like he's like Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo is a phenomenal, entertaining player. He's a phenomenal player. But he is an all-star guy. He's a guy that's going to show out during All-Star weekend. He's going to be like a 10-year All-Star. He's going to be like a 10-time All-Star pick. And he's going to ball out during All-Star games. But don't consider this dude the leader of a championship team, man. Do not consider him a leader. He is Carmelo Anthony, but Carmelo could shoot. Carmelo can't defend or pass worth shit, but he could shoot. Ben Simmons is like the opposite. So I don't know, man. He's like the opposite, but the same as it's weird. But yeah, like Ben Simmons needs to improve, man. Like no team. I don't even if the Sixers want to move him, who's going to take him? What are you going to do? Give up a bunch of first-round picks for a point guard, a 6'11" point guard who can't and won't shoot? Unless you believe that you can invest enough in him and you can work with him and get him confident in the shot and get him to knock down the shots. If Ben Simmons could develop at least a free throw line jumper consistently, he doesn't even need to shoot threes like that. Just a free throw line jumper, man. He would be a fucking beast. Do you know how torturous it would be for defenders to play against this guy if he could at least knock down a jump shot from the free throw line? Or knock down from the free throw area. Knock down shots from there. He'll be a beast. If Ben Simmons ever develops a three-point shot with the skills he already has, man, he might be on pace to be one of the most talented players we've ever seen. But he can't shoot, which makes him come up short. It's elementary, bro. Like, this stuff is elementary. Let's go. Let's listen.
For Markelle Fultz to sort of get better, he had to leave, and I think the same thing has to happen to Ben Simmons. I don't know where he goes. I do think in the short term he should play for Australia and be like, you know what? I'm going to shoot a lot here. I'm on a big